Yeah. I know that your patience is probably a little thin with me, and I
No,
apologize.
No.
You get out of the habit of being in charge of these things. So I've got the HDMI plugged in. Is that on? I turned the power on.
I can hear you. Hey.
Bring the finance committee meeting to order at.
Do you know how to turn the camera around? Is there a,
Does anyone know
Must be.
Wi-Fi?
I don't think you can. Let me just turn this around.
If we can't see, that's okay. I can
No,
hear.
that's okay. I thought maybe there was a great way to turn the
I don't know if we're
camera around. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get
hear
you on the
you.
screen.
That's okay. All good.
With a big, big.
I'll turn the volume.
He doesn't. Not as far as you are. It's part of the job.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna have them through the big.
We gotta.
Yeah, but
Oh.
Alex, can you talk?
Yep.
Yeah, see, they're only gonna come through this. They're not gonna.
Guys hear me too. I know last time my AirPods were an issue.
Well, Doug Briggs is in the waiting room.
So,
All right, I think
items related to.
what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sign into the Zoom too. Just so I can have you right next to me, so in case they wanna
Okay.
talk.
Yeah, just make sure you mute yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Budgets. I.
Um,
If there's something big, I'll make myself heard, or I'm not worried.
Several schools. They have an access income.
uh,
19,536,000. Yeah. So if you took that and multiplied it by the 8 and then divided by 100. No, excuse me. You
I guess I can just.
multiply that by
We need them
1387.
up there.
no,
Why don't we just take this over and fit
Yeah.
next to you?
yeah,
Just so, okay.
Something that I'll do it in a second, but 20 something. 167.
You guys hear me or not? It's Leah.
Yep, we can
Yep.
hear you.
Went up and asked. So
No, I'm not doing back here.
they have not gone, they don't regularly reevaluate or value property at Deborah because it doesn't matter. We don't spend money. We send them a.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they called to order.
Because it doesn't matter.
Darren, I don't want to interrupt, but I'm just gonna call select board to order
Understood.
at 6:12.
You know what?
Leah, are you okay to take notes?
There's no reason.
Yeah, I can. So called to order at 6:12.
Yeah,
So why would we spend money?
Heather says we can get the transcript as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
don't worry, Leah.
Assessor. I went to the
I'll
assessor.
do what I can and then go back
I
and
went to
get
the
what I need.
assessor and I asked the question because I wanted to see, so she pulled it up. They have a total of,
Okay, so my other question is this, you got this written down somewhere or something?
it is, well, I can send it to
You're
you.
gonna,
Yes,
okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
so. Night, it's everything. Right, I don't know about,
I believe that's, I believe that's property value and personal property.
Yeah, it's not income because we don't get any income tax.
And I guess a question I would have is if those properties aren't being we assessed as at the same cadence as the rest of the town. Does that affect something else, another figure somewhere else?
Amy didn't, I asked that exact question. And she said it was, there was no value sending someone up there to do it, to pay someone to do it because it's not gonna, we're not gonna get anything out.
I know
There's no-
we're not gonna get money from them, but I guess what is the property value in Rutland? That's
What-
been affected, right?
Yeah, but there's gotta be
Like-
things that the state uses, tax valuation of the whole town, et cetera. I mean, I don't know the answer right now, but it seems to
I
me
can ask some more questions
in
of
the past,
her.
you had to have everything evaluated, whether it was
Right, Rutland's got property values of
Right.
$1 billion or whatever it is. 'Cause I've
Whatever it
seen
is.
that
right.
number somewhere, so I guess that this was a follow-up question I would have. I understand we don't get tax dollars for it.
She just didn't think it was a beneficial way to spend that money.
I agree with him.
I can understand that, but I think there's some other things that require.
Unless it hurts
I don't
us.
know.
Right.
She
It
didn't,
seems to me there's more to it than that.
I will ask the question.
So Heather, in terms of the state, our total value of property, will that affect anything from the state?
I don't understand the question.
So if we say we have $1 billion in property, does that go into any kind of calculation for, I don't know, grants, unrestricted governmental aid, any of that kind of stuff?
I don't think that it's part of our our AGA, and I don't use property value for any grant applications. So the question that you're asking is, I guess specifically, is whether the 19 million that can be contributed to the Devereaux properties, both property and personal,
Mhm.
does that being, how is that shown on the tax roll? And does its presence as a nonprofit impact any other government, any other funding or revenue source that we have access to?
Yes,
Okay, I will find that answer on
okay,
this. Did I distill that
Yep,
correctly?
that's perfect.
Okay,
Yep, because if it's gonna, I mean, it might hurt us because we say we have that value, but it's not taxable, and that could hurt us, or we could be needing to reevaluate it because it helps us.
okay,
Right, when we hear from Wachusett, they tell us that the state the formula they use uses the valuation, it's the value of your town is going up,
So
so.
that we shouldn't reevaluate Devereaux then, based on that.
No, but I would assume that just like other cities and towns, you have the total valuation, you say these are ones we can't, because they're not, I mean, it's got, I don't know, I just think there's something in there that's supposed
I
to.
can ask, but in my 2-second look at it, I don't know what it would benefit us.
I understand that, but we need to ask the question
Well,
of somebody that knows.
I don't think the assessor's gonna know anything, Heather's gonna be the one. that's
Right,
gonna
no,
know.
I agree.
All right, we
Go ahead.
gonna jump into budget. Heather, did you wanna lead us through the memo with the changes?
sure. I guess, is it just as easy to ask if anybody had questions, or do we want to go through it section by section? Since some of us got to be on vacation last week. I guess we can just, any questions about the changes that I made to the columns at the end, where I linked them back to the FY 27 budget, so that we see the difference between the balanced budget and the override budget. Did everybody follow that? No. Okay, so in your original budget document that you received, and also the budget document that you've all used for as many years as you've been doing this, which I think collectively is probably pretty expansive, but this year. So in the original budget, that the column that has the amount of change and the percentage of change always linked FY 20, the new fiscal year back to the old fiscal year, so you could see year over year, right?
Yeah.
So for the purpose now, I think going forward, our conversation shifts a little bit. And rather than looking at what the difference is between FY 27 and FY 26, I think the conversation is shifting to what is the percentage, the amount and the percent difference between a balanced FY 27 budget and a fully developed FY 27 budget. So when we're having the conversation about what's the difference, how much are we cutting from a certain line? That is now reflected in those last two columns, as opposed to what was it to FY 26. And we can have another page added to there, which maintains that 26. But I think that now that we've sort of gone through the whole budget and have, had all those conversations about the increase from last year versus, because in many cases, we saw that there really wasn't any increase from last year. It was really more a decrease because we were looking at FY 25. It just becomes less of a pertinent conversation as we're moving into this phase of the budget, if that makes sense. So that I'm happy to go over anybody individually, but those are the changes I made to the structure of the budget. And then as far as the budget changes that we made by category, we restored the non-balanced budget, so the override. And how do we want to refer to the fully funded budget? Are we comfortable calling it the override budget for the purpose of this conversation? Is there a term that this group would prefer to use? I've been using balanced budget for the budget that reflects the cuts and the reductions. I guess I'll just keep calling it the override budget until somebody comes up with something better. So
Sorry, I think override budget is okay, or level services budget, or fully serviced budget, or something along those lines.
I like that. Level service budget.
Yeah, because I think that was the intent, right? Was to keep level services.
For the public who's watching this to say override budget,
Okay.
because we're not always getting level services.
Okay. Okay. We'll I'll try to work both into the conversation as we move through. The next change was an increase in the town audit. We received the actual quote from Roselli. So we've changed that from 27,500 to 30,000. And there was a $1,000 reduction in the TA balance budget. I put that back up to a level service fully funded, because we know we're going to need an audit, and I don't want to have to be scrambling for $1,000. I don't want to come for a reserve fund transfer for $1,000, because it really wouldn't meet either category of an unanticipated or emergency. So fully funding the audit. We are also seeking quotes from other auditing firms between now and the new accountant has taken that responsibility on. So if we're able to find another auditor that we're comfortable moving forward with, then we may not have to spend 30,000. Then
I have a quick question.
Yep.
And you might not know this off the top of your head. I think best practice is to periodically, every couple to few years, change the auditing firm. Do you remember how many years in a row we've used this firm?
I don't know how many years in a row that you used Roselli, but I think it's been more than 2 or 3. So that's exactly sort of where we are with this, and I think Roselli does a great job. And
Well, yeah.
I really liked having a clean audit. But sometimes I think it is prudent and best practice to change auditing firms just so that you have fresh eyes looking at everything.
Yeah, it's not a ding against the current firm by any means. It's just I know even through MMA, a lot of the MMA conversations, it's best practice to not get comfortable with an auditing firm. So that was all. Thank you.
Yep, no, absolutely. And then our,
I have a
I'm sorry.
question, I'm sorry. The town accountant additional salary, what is that for?
That if there was a class or, no, that's for purchase services. If she was to become certified within the scope of the next fiscal year, that's what that is for. If her certification is complete within the FY 27 budget, then that would be salary that is due to her. You'll find that also in the treasurer collector, the town clerk, and the assessor.
I know that's
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah,
That's why I
yeah,
asked, because I was like, she's not there yet.
But if she was to become certified in FY 27, we would owe it to her, and I don't, and again, trying to avoid coming in for things that wouldn't be considered emergencies or unanticipated. E-permitting, Civic Plus and Vadar, we have reduced this line item from 58,250 to 52,500. I guess there was some conversation about asking departments to enter their own bills and invoices, their bill schedules independently, so that by the time it makes it to the accountant's office, it's more of a review and account assignment as they structure the warrant. This is a best practice because it does allow additional sets of eyes. It's more of a check and balance. However, each department would have to have their own Vadar license. And we felt that in addition to the extra cost of adding 7 licenses, if we are in a position where we have to reduce staff and reduce hours, adding a new task and additional workload to those departments is this is probably not the year to do that. So we have taken that off our to-do list, and the accountant's office is aware and supports this decision. She actually was the one that brought it to me and said, it doesn't really make any sense to move forward with this shift in practice in a year where we're going through potentially some significant transition.
So no purchase orders then?
No, that we would not institute the purchase order process.
We fought real hard for that, and we
Okay.
got training for it,
Yeah,
and
I'm not aware of that context, sorry, and I don't believe the accountant office was either. So for the purchase order, I think that's a different conversation. That doesn't require the additional licenses. But
whatever figure, and I don't remember what the quote was from Vadar, but it was everything that we needed to do, and I don't know who was going to do what, but.
Okay,
The context, part of the context for this is also seeing commitments that we have on the books that may have not been invoiced yet.
okay,
And that is, I think, how this came up in the first place.
yeah,
So if we see the purchase orders that are placed, we know to expect a bill. And then it's not like, oh, what's this bill? Oh my God, did we forget? And whatever else that happens in there.
I just want to make sure that we're staying on budget. I understand the purchase order topic, but it's
Well,
not
doesn't
pertain to the
advocating
FY
for-
27
for-
budget.
I,
I don't want to take it out.
let's, so that we stay on budget, would you please revisit the purchase orders back, because the
I-
finance committee had some
Yeah.
concerns
so
about.
we've already
what
commit,
all.
I have already signed this quote. So for FY 27, we are not gonna buy 7 additional licenses. There was nothing on the quote that even referenced purchase orders, which is why this is a new conversation to me. So the conversation may be that within the context of the structure of how those purchase orders were going to be accomplished within those 7 licenses, maybe a different conversation. I will revisit how we can create a purchase order system that does not involve spending another $6,000 on licensing so that other departments are entering their own invoice. So I think it's possible this is 2 different conversations, and I will certainly look at the purchase order process, but I'm not gonna change
Yep.
the budget amount at this
The whole
point.
purpose was by putting in purchase orders. Then when a department put in their own invoices, it was against the purchase order.
Right,
So it saved the time and effort.
no, and
That was the whole thing.
I have certainly worked in municipalities where that was exactly the system. Much larger, the number of bill schedules that were being processed. I think that given the number of, did you set a threshold? It was at 5,000? That was your threshold of any expenditure over the amount of 5,000 that had to have a purchase order?
Yeah.
So as you look at your bill schedules, you see that we don't have a lot of those. They come up maybe 1 or 2 per warrant. I wouldn't require a purchase order for, say, the 124,000 that we just spent to Harvard Pilgrim, because I don't consider that a purchase order worthy expense because that's a reoccurring assessment. So I think there's a conversation that we can have there. And I'm happy to do that. Okay. Planning assistant, there we had a lot of conversation about the stormwater permitting process. I did spend quite a bit of time talking to the various individuals that worked with the town to put the permit application, the checklist, and write the bylaw. They have assured me that based on the information that they have in front of them, that they received from the town and from the planning board, that this is at least for the foreseeable future, will have a very minimal impact on the town of Rutland, because the majority of your large-scale building projects have already been approved by the planning board and therefore are grandfathered in. And so until a new subdivision is presented, this would not be triggered. And the DPW had worked with the Weston Sampson Group to put in to place a process that they could handle internally if and when a permit application came in. It would be ultimately the planning board's responsibility to approve that permit, but they would have the access of the outside peer review and the DPW's clerical and administration staff.
The qualified professional that will be hired at the applicant's expense, who hires the professional?
I think that what we would be talking about, should this come up, is a conversation with who's available. Who's available in our area to do that work. Weston Sampson maintains a list of third-party engineering firms.
So
that
the
do this.
town would be responsible for hiring that?
Oh, yeah,
professional?
yeah.
That's the
Oh,
piece I wanna
I'm
make
sorry.
sure. Yeah.
I didn't know if you meant DPW or planning board.
No, I
I
just,
think that we'll maintain a list internally.
the DPW will hire that.
DPW probably in consultation with planning board. You know, I don't think that we'll look to make it an RFP process, because that would take up quite a bit of time. But I think that we would have a list of engineers that are available to do that. And yes, the town would hire and have that service. And I reviewed the checklist. It is a 6-page checklist. So it is a significant amount of work, and certainly something that we would want to offload to a licensed professional. PEG, community television. There was some questions about the detailed expense reports. I believe that we wanted to know specifically the money that was being spent, who it was being spent with, and in what amounts. So I gave you in your packet the last 2 fiscal years of expense reports. Just some high level analysis of that. You'll see that pretty top heavy in payroll. And then there were some stipends that were paid out from purchase services for the consultant role. Now that we have restructured the organizational I guess scope of staff. All 4 members are now, well, 5. Jason, is Jason still with us?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so the 5 staff, Paul being a consultant, a director, a studio manager, and then 2 camera operators will all be paid directly out of the payroll line. So there won't be as many expenses that show up in purchase services. You know, to the consultant, we will be handling that and all the way through payroll. Unique Scientific, they were a AV broadcast vendor that we worked with, that we procured a lot of our materials, a lot of our equipment through, and then they also maintained in service. The group has moved in a different direction, and we have signed a contract for a service agreement that is a static $1,000, and that will include as many on-call service calls, as well as you know, the maintenance of the equipment. So it's kind of like, instead of paying an hourly rate to somebody, we'll just pay a flat $1,000 and have that service available to us as many times as we need it during the course of a month. It will also reduce staff reimbursements as well. Zoom communications, we've downgraded to basic service. We'll still maintain our 3 accounts, but we've eliminated the breakout rooms. So we'll save, you know, it's not a lot of money, but it's not a service that we were using. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. Same with the Charter Communications, that was a landline that is no longer available, and it's not being maintained or monitored. So we've eliminated that. There is a line for the capital outlay. That is a direct reimbursement through our charter agreement. And it would certainly cover the proposed $12,000 in the requested MOA agreement with the library, reserving $5,000 for equipment. And then for those of you who did go through with a fine tooth comb, I knew you'd ask me why we were paying Century Oil. So we did make sure that that was a related expense. There was a one-time repair to the heat pump in that studio space.
In regards to the breakout rooms, was that originally put on there for executive session when boards were remote?
Probably.
Yes, I think it was all during COVID.
Yeah, so I think that would make
couldn't have
sense
more
why it
than
was on
one.
there, and it makes sense to take it off there.
Yeah, we couldn't, there wasn't enough rooms. Remember, Karen, we had a couple times we had problems, we didn't have enough rooms and.
Okay, anyway,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
No, the breakout rooms, no, we had license issues, so that's why we made sure we got a 3rd license for finance committee, because 4th of July took our license.
Breakout rooms were for what then?
Those breakout rooms were done, in the previous.
A breakout room would be, you have a Zoom, and then you want people to break off and to go into your corner, so pretend it's a real.
It's like an executive
Recorder,
session.
But it was all during
Oh.
COVID, right?
Yeah.
It's still one Zoom.
Yeah,
It
we're
was
good.
before COVID.
No, it was after COVID. Austin Saganowitz.
Okay,
I'm trying to not say the name, but no
Well,
one's.
that's okay. I mean, you know,
It's being removed, so
Yeah,
we
yeah.
can.
Tommy, I knew this was an area that you had specific interest in. Was there anything that stuck out to you?
No, not specifically, no.
Okay, so you know where I am. Come in if anything comes up, or you can give, or, oh, that's right. sorry, yeah, my fault.
Darren's
animal-
authorizing you if, so everybody, so if you need to go, you can go. If-
Animal.
Oh,
Animal
only
con-
him?
Okay,
For this
moving
instance.
on, animal control. There were no changes to any of the expenses that
Yes.
showed up in your operating budget line by line. As you know, Rutland is the lead community, so we maintain that budget. But what we have now is, the final assessments when Chief Monaco was in before he had draft assessments available. So these are the final. Dispatch. Worked, very, very hard with Mike Moriarty to fill in all of those missing spaces. He has actuals now on all of his, budget items with the exception of health insurance, which is still ongoing, but we've plugged in a number. He's worked with our current treasurer to figure out what an appropriate number is. So that assessment does go up from 375 to 382, but we're comfortable with that number. He's also still working with the state to ask them to cover some of the increases that we've seen in the budget preparation, so that number may be reduced depending on the amount of grant that we receive from the state 911. But again, we want to make sure that we're appropriating what we anticipate having to pay to the district. The budget, the cut budget still remain, I still have the placeholder amount, that 375, that if we are not successful getting an override, then we would not appropriate the full 382. And I think I printed copies of that budget. So you can,
But can we do that?
what?
Because we're one of five.
It's the same conversation that you'd be having with your school budget, that if the other communities also can't support it, then, and I think that the only difference here is that unlike the school assessment, this budget is still, I guess, where we don't know what the 911 rebate would be, and we don't know what that health insurance number is gonna be. I feel that this is an appropriate opportunity to, if we have to make cuts, we can make a cut here, and we'll have to solve the problem at a fall town meeting. But speaking of education, the current assessment is certified at 18,808,704, which is a very small decrease from placeholder. As you heard at the March 19th meeting, negotiated well with their teachers union, and they are meeting on Monday to ratify, or the school superintendent is going to ask the school committee to ratify an assessment that is a lower amount for the town of Rutland, that's $18,383,604, which is a $425,000. We know from the conversation that you had with, and it's reiterated packet, that is a one-time savings. So the FY 28 assessment will start back at the 18,808 number. It will not start at the 18,383 number. So we just want to be mindful of that as we have these conversations, that this is a one-time savings. And it is not what the FY 28 budget will look like.
What do you mean by start at?
So whereas, all things being equal, they didn't have the negotiation with the teachers. Next year, when they start the budget process, they would you know, last year's assessment would be factored into their, the amount of revenue that they generated through the assessments would be their base revenue for their next budget, just like we do with our levy,
Well,
right?
that's fine. I guess my question is that new assessment is gonna have a health insurance increase of like 10% or whatever, 15%
Mhm.
on that new number and may still not get us to this number.
That is not what they said at the meeting on the 19th.
Okay,
Right, and I think that it's only relevant because it's a 1-year savings. Next year, they are not, you know,
if they opt out, right, that's where that comes from. But if they don't opt out, then it might be different based.
right,
Understand.
yeah. So I guess I just want to make sure that we're not, when I put this number into, just to see how it modeled, I did not change the projection going out FY 28 and 29 and forward, because I can't count on that 4.25 being part of our budget going forward. So, that's where we are with education. They are voting on Monday. I don't know if, you want me to pause here and we can talk about that at all, or I'll just keep going. Public Works, this group had asked me to take a look at areas that, perhaps would be not funded, enough, that needed a little strategic reinforcement. So I talked with Chris and, we agreed that the aging equipment, he's had some pretty significant maintenance, and repair bills. So we have put some money into the machinery and maintenance lines, both purchase services and supplies. I put a little bit more in fuel, and then some more in the waste disposal line. Grand total of $6,500 increase to the budget with those items.
No.
Talk about snow and ice though.
Yeah.
Because I know that our conversation was to caution not to increase it as much as it's still showing. Because that's a baseline we'll never be able to decrease. And has that didn't go anywhere, or I know that Leah and I were kind of
Yeah.
really encouraging people to maybe look at a $20,000. We can't take this, the anticipation of this year, because it was an extremely unusual year. If we go back to the 25, which was actually the 26th. We can always overspend it. I know we don't like to a lot, but I think we thought we might be more comfortable with maybe 220,000, not the 280,000.
What
I
did?
think it's set at 200.
Yeah,
What did?
yeah,
Left at 200.
the request was for 280. I didn't support that request.
So it's at 200 in the budget?
It's at 200 in the budget.
That's the cut budget,
Oh.
the balanced budget.
252.
Hmm.
252 for the TA. Yeah, I didn't put, 280 in. I put 252.
Right, but that's still more than what we had was talking about. So I guess I'd like a rationale about it maybe, or.
Well, I think you've been at that baseline for a number of years. You are allowed to overspend it, however, DOR does pay attention to that, if it's still the same number that you were using in the 80s, you know, yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think that we just thought that, the budget could sustain it. The level service override budget could sustain the increase. But it's up to, I mean, if there's not a recommendation or support, we can certainly look at that. When I talked to Chris, I think we're a little over 200,000 in the red now. We have yet to receive our last month's worth of salt and sand invoices. So it'll probably push up to past 250 in the hole. So that's 250 on top of what we've already appropriated. And that's a lot of money to come from free cash. You know, we have other goals to use our free cash for, but again, you know, this is.
Leah, I know this was one of your talking points. Did you have any thoughts on the 252 that's proposed for the recommended?
I think is that, sorry, I'm looking, is it in the recommended for the recommended and the cut, or is this the override only?
The override has 252, the balanced cut budget has 200.
Okay, yeah, I think I definitely support it in an override. I was hedgy on the 280 for sure. And I know we had kind of talked about whether to go 220, 225, 230, whatever. I think I want to be mindful that if we're going for an override, we're being responsible and not trying to shortchange ourselves on that end, so that in a year, because we shortchanged ourselves, then we're already behind the eight ball, if that makes sense. I think looking at the past few years and forward, that isn't an item that's likely to be significantly decreased. We're having a lot more rain and ice events, which are costly because it's multiple treatments. It's a little bit harder to manage. So we're not necessarily having the big, huge snowstorms, but we're having still needing a lot of people out and a lot of supplies out. So I would love to see the 280, but I don't think that that's responsible. But if Heather is comfortable with the sustainability of a 252 going forward, I think that shows a commitment to DOR and to ourselves, that we're acknowledging that this is an area that is not going to be much less than that going forward, most likely.
The other factor that comes into play is the new contract that will become effective July 1 has I guess the only way you can really refer to it is a bonus of $2,500 for every employee that does not miss a snow event. You know, if you get called out and you come in every time, you get a bonus of $2,500. That has a projected value of $35,000. I don't know what the likelihood is of paying out the full $35,000, but that is certainly a liability against that budget as well.
Is that to avoid certain overtime costs though?
No, it doesn't avoid overcost. So what happens is if your pay period, you get 80 hours and your every one of our snow events this year came in on a Saturday or Sunday. I don't know how many of you had your weekends ruined like mine, because that's when our crew was out. So they were easily working significantly over that 80 hours, right? And of course, they're being paid for that. But it gets to a point, right, where you get to where as a person, you're just like, you can't pay me enough money to come in and plow another Sunday storm, right? Right. Well, but that's what that's what was negotiated. And so the incentive is, because that's what happens towards the end of the season, people just stop coming in. They just stop answering the phone because they're exhausted, they're burnt out.
Do the firemen do that when they get tired of going? They just stop calling it.
Yeah. Yeah. When the tone outs go, you know, you just get to, so this was an incentive that was negotiated in order to give the motivation that towards the end of the season, they don't lose the incentive to come in. So regardless of how we feel about it, right, it was negotiated, it was approved, it is a liability of $35,000. So
Where is
it would be in your snow and ice budget.
under overtime or?
No, it would probably come under purchase services because it
For
doesn't,
27?
it is for 27.
But it's not in there, but it's gonna be one of those excess spending
Right.
accounts.
Well, but is it,
Yes, it is.
No,
I
because
don't- I
snow and
don't-
ice time is paid in that's gonna be paid at the purchase services, because it
if it's a bonus, then
better be
it doesn't,
taxed.
it's it's questionable whether it's taxed, because you can't, it doesn't count towards your retirement. It's a bonus.
Bonuses are taxed.
Well,
Always.
right.
If it's not,
Right.
unless you're topping it up to take care of the tax so that they walk away with 2,500, so you're really getting more. That's the only way you can do that. I guess I just don't see, it's in the budget, but is it under snow and ice overtime? And if so, I don't see how that's.
It's not an overtime wage, it's bonus.
Yeah.
It's
So
on-
what I'm saying is that this is a new liability where we're talking about, you know,
It's
money
not
that,
on the, it's not in any budget
And
yet.
it's not gonna be on a budget.
It's no. It wouldn't, the way I'm understanding it, it's not gonna be on the budget. It'll be an additional snow and ice thing that we can overspend.
yes, no, right? So we know that we have an increased liability for snow and ice. And one of the reasons that we're trying to boost this budget is to accommodate not only the increase in costs for things like salt services, but we know we have payroll, we know we have overtime. And again, this is just an opportunity to add additional, and quite I mean, this is my revised budget. So I'm, you know, I think that it's a prudent use of funds. I support the increase. I think that our liabilities, whether they be payroll, overtime, or purchase services, they're only going up. And at some point, our budget has to also. We can't just continue to level fund it into perpetuity. That is not the intent of the law. And it is certainly something that at some point the town needs to invest and make sure that they're meeting that financial responsibility. So this is the budget that I'm recommending. Again, it's not my final decision, but if there's, you know,
So where's the 35,000?
it would be it would have to be, if we have a light year, we could probably accommodate it within the existing budget. If we have a heavy year like we did this year, it becomes part of the deficit spend. Because it would be paid out at the end of the year, right? So we would obviously spend down the budget first. And then if we have these bonuses to be paid out at the end of the season, if we're in deficit, then they become part of the deficit spend.
And who negotiated that one?
Who negotiated the contract?
Yeah.
It was during
The,
Seth's time.
yeah, the interim town administrator, and it was ratified. I think it was ratified. Yeah, it was my second or third meeting.
Yeah.
It was when our executive went live.
That's, I mean,
Well, the bottom line is the selectmen approved it, period.
Right.
So
It's
we're-
a-
That's, I guess that's where I was going.
That's exactly what it is.
But I do, more and more communities are offering these incentives, simply for the exact reason that I said it, towards the end of a season, you just don't have the manpower returning for service, and as a result, it takes longer, to get the roads clear, and, this is a way to combat that.
Who's the gatekeeper of that?
What do you mean the gatekeeper?
Who's gonna,
Who's gonna keep
Monitor.
track? Who's gonna keep track of who comes in what storm?
The same person that does it now, which is the director.
Well, that would be part of payroll, a payroll
Yeah.
record.
Absolutely.
The only thing is now, so if somebody comes in for a storm and leaves partway through the storm, does that count towards the 2,500 or not?
we're gonna have to look at the collective
That's
bargaining.
not a question.
I'm gonna have to look at it, cause
Yeah.
it's interesting.
so. All right, last did we look at what it would cost to just buy the service outside relative to $35,000?
Well, we use contracted labor.
Okay, so we could have increased that also to make
If
up.
I'm-
the shortfall.
If I may, I think some of the conversation revolves, whenever we talk about plowing, I think a lot of the conversation is actual person power that's willing to come in and do it. It's not a matter of where they are there bodies that are willing to come in and do it. All the communities in the state are constantly looking for contracted employees, and a lot pay better than Rutland. And so where are people going to go? And being part of a regional school district, two regional school districts, and having almost 90 miles of roadway, we needed to make sure that we have a tool in place to hopefully have sustainable snow removal and winter weather coverage for the duration of the season.
I certainly prefer the bonus over salary increase, right? But. Yeah,
Would you say?
it just feels strange to say that we're fine.
Well,
Yeah, if you come to the job, you get extra.
Right, so, but I want to stress that the,
It was
that the-
ratified, guys.
that the-
I don't know what
Yeah,
else.
we're done.
bonus,
think-
yeah,
Yeah,
the bonus
right,
is not,
Yeah, we're.
I'm-
beating the horse.
We could
It's
beat
just
this
a
around, but
behavior.
the other thing is too, if you have we should look at the collective bargaining agreement someday and just make sure that we all understand them, and then I don't, maybe bring up questions related to any of them, right? But
Yeah.
all right,
okay, moving down the list. Board of Health, so Human Services, during our public hearing with the Board of Health, there was a discrepancy in the amount that we had budgeted versus what they felt they had outstanding in purchase services, so I met with their staff and we corrected the math, and the 10,955 aligns with their actual contracts that they have outstanding. There would be no change to the cut budget. There are no changes to the culture and recreation / library budget. And no changes to our debt. Under unclassified, we did get our health insurance premium. The select board met briefly to discuss this, but have not yet accepted the insurance advisory committee's recommended increase of 18.9%, but that is on their agenda for Monday. But assuming that that is worst case scenario, we have adjusted that line item accordingly. Then we had corresponding adjustments that were made to the cut budget to reflect our staffing. So using that same 18.9%, but just with fewer staff. So that's where the cut budget modification was made. Medicare and life insurance, that was also updated to reflect those payroll adjustments. Property and casualty insurance. This was this is a bright spot to end the conversation. We had budgeted 20% over last year, and our increase was only 8.5%. So that was a lovely. I actually signed the agreement so fast because honestly, like I said, our loss runs this year were 144%. How we managed an 8.5% increase, again, I signed it the minute it hit my inbox so that we're locked.
It's mythical.
It is mythical. It's a unicorn, but I'm not questioning it.
I somehow, as a finance committee, I think we have to. Every year we talk about the health insurance. Every year. Nobody does. I mean, we recommend, we're an appointed advisory committee. and our things are falling on deaf ears. Because if Wachusett can do it with one of the largest unions around, I think we can do it in Rutland too. And we have not given, in my mind, it's unfortunate.
So Darren, to your point, Brian Boyle, who is the town's insurance rep, Alex had brought up some questions about
That
opportunities. And we have asked Brian to put together a presentation for the board. So if you tune in Monday, I
I
think
heard it was coming,
Yeah.
but that's not for this year.
it would not be for this year, no. But I think that there's a.
think
That's a step in the right direction.
Let's tune in on Monday. I think that's the answer.
And the 18.9% increase in health insurance, does that include the proposed increase of us funding $700 each?
It does not,
It does not. So is that in here?
it is not.
It is not. So that's gone by the wayside.
No, it's just the select board has not approved it, so I didn't budget for it.
I'm confused about am I supposed to see these numbers here? Because I'm dead, actually.
You wanna,
I've seen most of the things correspond to each other, but not on that line.
which one, the health insurance?
Don't classify, yeah, health insurance. Yeah, what do you know, health insurance?
Well, it's not,
Sorry,
hasn't been.
I don't know that I put the new number in the memo.
okay. Okay, the tables
Yeah,
started.
yeah, so that 1,328,000
Cool.
is the new. I think we originally had budgeted.
1,247.
Well, yeah, on this, it says it was replacing the 1,194,898, 20% placeholder.
Let me pull up,
This is this.
yeah, I've got it right,
Okay.
yeah. Let me pull up next budget, make sure I've got the number right.
Change column is relative to fiscal 26, right?
No, not anymore.
It's relative to the original recommendation.
No, it's relative to the balance versus the level service budget.
Oh,
Yeah, I think
yeah, I understand.
that 1.3 can't be right. Because the original has the number from the memo.
We're not gonna have an actual budget until Wachusett votes on Monday. So this is closing in on that cone, but it's not right yet.
No, I understand. So
Just so
this
we-
may be a clerical thing. I just thought I should see it.
And not necessarily it's this, but until Wachusett does it,
Yeah,
we have no idea where we're gonna be. I guess we do. It's either gonna be the same that we had, or it's gonna be that percentage, like 400,000 less.
So the reduced amount, the balanced budget for health insurance is accurate, $1,163,375. That is correct.
But doesn't it, am I reading it wrong? Doesn't it show 1,328,830? That's what I see.
yeah, so she's talking about the balance.
That's the
one.
balance. She's talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the versus the.
Yeah,
But it shouldn't matter whether it's the balanced or the.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's-
what I'm saying, please.
You were losing
Oh,
people.
Yeah, okay, I got you, yes.
So with the cut budget,
Okay,
it would only go down 12%.
Yeah. And then the health insurance for the level service non-cut override budget is accurate, $1,328,830.
Okay, so I just don't have the baseline isn't on here because that would be the level.
This says it's replacing the 1,194,898.
So the memo number have I shared with everybody that I am numerically dyslexic, truthfully diagnosed? I can't pass a math test where you have to transpose numbers from one column to the other. So I might have transposed something in there. If you give me a minute, I can find it.
The thing that checked me off something is amiss is that increase is much smaller than what you're talking about, and so that's why I was confused. That's what.
Fair enough.
I ask us to look at the finance committee purchase services. We actually spent $201. I know it's nominal, but I like things neat. And if we know that we're gonna spend at least $201 this year, I'd at least like to make it that was actually spent. We're even $1, we'd have to go and do a reserve fund transfer because it's not on the line.
Do you remember what you spent it on?
It's
our
So do you-
Association of Town Finance Committees membership.
I would even suggest we put it, we should not, we be slimmed off, just so that we don't. Didn't we talk about that?
That's what I said, 2 tests. In the previous budget, Heather, it was 1,194,898.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not 20% because you're going up, not down.
So I'm just saying on health insurance for a second. The original request for health insurance was $1,194,898.
Right.
So,
And you're saying that was a 20% placeholder, but now you're going up to 1,328,000.
right, all I can tell you is that this is so I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'll ask Nick because it isn't jiving. But
I just
that
wanted
was,
to-
So all we.
I just want to make sure that if you went back to your original budget, you will see that 1,190,000.
I did, that's what I did. I went back to that one, and that's why I was like, wait a second, that can't be
Yeah.
20, and then this be 18.9 because it went up.
Looking
Okay.
for that. I might have the memo from Nick from our packet. I'm not sure if the numbers would be in there from last week,
Yeah.
but I'm looking for that. Sorry.
Well, it's also possible that we hired somebody or somebody came onto the insurance that wasn't on the
Yeah.
insurance before.
That, I was just gonna say that he's basing the FY 27 probably less on the 20% and more on who's actually going to be eligible for those health insurance benefits. So I will get a clarification on that. Remind me, and then I will gladly adjust and give the finance committee another, is it $9 that you want? Yes. All right, $9 more.
And
$10.
It's at 200. So
Okay,
if we say 210.
okay. I think,
it's
I
round.
think, yeah, we'll go ahead and adjust that $10, but that's it.
If they don't want to do.
If it goes up to 211, we got a big problem.
Big problem.
Yeah,
But I'll give you $1 from my audit.
I don't. What do you get?
Okay. So I
I'll leave
think
it.
those were the items that I had on my list. I went back and listened to a handful of the final 7 minutes of every finance committee meeting when we go through our list of outstanding items, and I think I cleaned them up. But if I missed one,
So one that if I missed it, I apologize. If the cut budget goes through.
Yeah.
It was, what will the boards be able to do that have revolving funds? Do they have to use the person that they currently have now, or would they be able to use somebody else?
right. Yes, you did ask that question. I don't have that answer because I was focused on the budget cleanup because I wanted to make sure that we had a final budget for tonight. So I still owe you that answer. I'm gonna maybe wing it a little bit. I don't think that at that point it would be required. If the person that's currently performing those responsibilities has their hours cut and can no longer perform that responsibility, then I think we'd have to look at that job description and see what else, what other options are for those boards and committees. That's an approach, but the job descriptions would have to go through the select board and, that would be something that we could discuss further. But I think it would hinge on a revision to the job description and what the revolving fund language included. Whether have to be a modification at town meeting to what the revolving funds can be spent on.
No, I know that in the past, it's been
Yeah.
paid out of that.
I'm just saying,
It's been paid out of there in the
these-
past.
What I'm saying, Karen, is these would be the question, these are the things I would have to check, right? That I haven't read all of your revolving funds, so I believe you that that the revolving fund says that it can be spent on salary, but that would be just a question I would have to verify if the revolving fund as approved by town meeting said that. Maybe it's been done in the past, but again, it doesn't mean that that's what the revolving fund says. And then we'd have to look at job descriptions. So I think that would be my almost final answer.
I didn't answer, but I'll take it.
Well, so what
Well,
I
the
think that what
question's
you're
gonna
saying
be
is,
we have a lot of we have a lot
yeah,
of
boards
boards that rely on this person.
Yeah.
And that position
Yeah.
to take notes, and then we're not gonna have that.
and I've said that
And that's
about,
very important.
I've said that about the permitting boards for sure. The permitting boards, from my perspective, not having professional guidance for those groups is a liability to the town, right? Because if they are making a decision and then the paperwork isn't followed up on correctly, it isn't even as far as the minutes go. Like the minutes, I think are the least of my worries. My concerns are making sure that the permits are completed correctly, that they are recorded correctly, and that they are followed and administered correctly. That to me is the bigger issue for the administrative services that we provide to our permitting boards. The minutes are important, but not nearly as significant from a liability standpoint as the output from those boards and committees. Never heard this be quiet before.
So, can I ask a question on the
Absolutely.
revenue side? Is that like a thing that you do next now? Or is that, I don't see any additional amount.
I was saying something.
Is that
something?
I
It's just separate.
IEIN.
So I think that we've gone through the revenue.
No, it's not.
TYING.
That's that one funny one that changes over to Y. Okay, thank you.
So, the question was whether or not I would now start on revenues. Yeah, I don't think that we're expecting any changes to our revenue, the governor's budget. Until the legislature approves the budget, we won't have any final numbers on our state aid. That would likely happen after your town meeting. So that would be any increases would be considered unanticipated revenues and count towards our free cash. Any local receipts that we take in over and above the anticipated revenues that are in your budget would also be considered free cash. So I'm not proposing any modifications to your revenue. I think your revenue is based conservatively and inappropriately.
So that's the number, together, those two numbers make what we asked on the override, right?
Mhm.
So. The revenue numbers that I should be referring to, I guess I could be linked to those.
in the budget that I sent you,
Okay.
if you go to the revenue sheet. Oh, I know, I just printed the, it would be in the,
Oh, and
in
On the online.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, on the online, if you go to the revenue. Which is in between the 5-year plan and the master sheet. You will see that we are projecting, 28,768,214 in anticipated revenue, which is, less than what we anticipated last year because you're losing your revenues for dispatch.
I'm already open.
Leah or Alex, any questions on the budget presented tonight?
I'm good, thank you.
I think you
I'm good.
covered fairly well.
I'm good. I carried my questions as we went. Thank you.
So for select board, we, as Heather mentioned, the school committee's not voting on the new assessment or a change in the assessment until Monday. We were originally anticipating hopefully being able to approve the budget on Monday, but I am concerned that I just don't know which, I'm hopeful that they would approve it, but until we have that actual vote, I don't know if the board feels comfortable approving the budget or doing it contingent on that, or if the board would consider an off meeting next Thursday, April 2nd, to kind of do a final review and approval of the budget once all that information is in.
I would make a motion that we approve the budget pending the Wachusett healthcare adjustment going through.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you?
I'm comfortable with that. But Jen, do you want that motion on Monday or do you want that motion tonight? Sorry.
I think it would probably be good to hold it until Monday, just to give Harry an opportunity. I think he's gonna be back. He didn't communicate his vacation time, so I don't know exactly when he's gonna be back, but hopefully he will be. And just to give him an opportunity to bring forward any questions or anything that he has, I think it would be good to hold that.
And if I may, I can say I know before school WRC administration started going around to all the towns, they did hold a special school committee meeting. So this isn't new news to the school committee members. And they seemed very receptive to it. Obviously, it's the recommendation of the administration. I think the bigger question from everything was assuming that everything checked out legally and ratification by the final ratification by the unions and everything. It seems like from this conversation that that's good and that what they presented to us is what they're presenting to school committee on Monday. And I didn't anticipate from the original pre-meeting that that was going to be an issue.
That's good. So hopefully we'll get that good news. And I said, I'm comfortable doing a contingent vote. But if we're good to hold that till Monday, I think that's good.
I'm not comfortable with the finance committee like that. Unless you guys want.
Right.
Yeah. But that's fine, Selectmen can do it.
The other consideration for select board, just for thinking and for discussion on Monday, is if the assessment does get adjusted, is there any consideration to making a change to the proposed override amounts that we would be looking for?
If I may, I've done I've looked at this a couple of different ways. and knowing that the reduction, the 425,000 proposed savings to the FY 27 assessment, whereas it's been acknowledged, Leah, I thank you for making that point very clear at the March 19th meeting, that it's a one-time only. We know that the 3-year target number of $5.4 million to be able to balance that FY 29 budget is still a solid number. That's the culmination of override numbers for the next 3 years. But potentially we could consider a different number for FY 27, knowing that I think it would be challenging to ask voters to approve a $3 million override, knowing that we're only have to raise the levy, $2.5 million. I think it might cause more we could say very clearly that the $3 million isn't going to be raised if we don't need it, and we know we won't need it because the assessment is lower. I think it would factor I don't want to say distrust, but confusion as to why you're asking for 3 million when you know you only have to raise 2.5 based on this lower school assessment. So I think that it's something to think about, that if we adjust our numbers so that we still get to 5.4, but instead of starting at 3, we start at 2.5. It does mean a small increase in 28 and 29 to the 1.1 and 1 that we were talking about, but it would bring those numbers closer together, and it would level out the increases over 3 years, making them more in line with each other year over year. Instead of a big bump for FY 27 and then 2 smaller bumps, it would be three, more consistent. And I guess that we want to weigh that against the questions about why we're changing the numbers a month in, and answering the questions of, the town is always able to find money, and we're always able to pull something out of a hat to make it not quite so drastic or dramatic as what we originally put out there. So certainly don't want any, this is not a question to be answered tonight, but I just think it's something to think about for your meeting on Monday and or next Thursday, pending that school committee ratification, whether it's something that we want to talk about modifying those final ballot question amounts to make them.
Sorry.
I'll just finish by saying that, I think that we talked about months ago that being able to tie our override out to real budget numbers, so that we can point to the bottom of a column and say that's where that number comes from. And I think that there's some real credibility to be gained by being able to do that. And I think that the explanation is very transparent in this case. The school budget dropped by $425,000 in 1 year. We can, take that right off the bottom and save taxpayers that. But following up with the conversation that we know we still need inevitably the 5.4. So that's where it gets a little cloudy. But anyways, I'll stop. Thank you.
Go ahead, Leah.
I had a process question. By when does the ballot language need to be to town clerk's office? I thought previously it had to be the very last day of March, but that could just be based on the time before the election?
I believe it's April 8th, Leah.
Okay, thank you.
Do we ever speak about April 8th? Do we have a warrant out yet? That you can actually see.
They had it on their agenda at the last meeting, so, I believe it's public, yeah.
Could we,
We asked for it last week.
could you send it over to us when you get a chance, Jen? Thanks, me.
Yeah, I'll find it, yeah.
We're still proceeding with a tiered, right?
Yes.
Override. So,
But we can't call it tier.
Sorry.
Year, year.
multi-year, my bad, multi-year.
Yeah.
So that, I think that's where the appetite for doing this once and not again will come through, and otherwise I think we should go with the minimum that we need to keep us reasonably whole.
But don't act until you know the exact.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I'm not dealing with speculation.
no, but I do think that there's a lot to be gained in transparency.
I
To
can
the
explain
voters.
the reason why it went down this year. When I know that it went down this year,
Mhm.
we're being totally transparent. It happened on the 19th of March, it's not a. It's explainable at that point, and we can justify it if we do it now.
I think, if I may, I think it's justifiable in something that many, many, many people in the community have been pushing for years. And so that was huge on the school district side.
Well. They were able to recognize.
They were able to negotiate with the PAC. Yeah.
They did well,
Sorry, what?
they did a good job, it worked out.
I did just find my email from Anita and Ben, and yes, Wednesday, April 8th is the deadline for ballot questions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So Leah, we have it on our agenda for Monday to review the questions, so we can maybe ensure the language is right, and then when we need to, we can finalize those.
Yeah.
Whatever the numbers need to be.
Yeah, so the language comes from council.
Right.
I think the big question that the select board will have to answer, in addition to what the amounts are, is whether you're gonna have 3 ballot questions, making making the operational budget contingent upon an override, and then 3 additional questions as to whether you're gonna make the Wachusett Regional assessment contingent upon the override, because that's another 3 ballot questions. So I think that'll be the next bigger conversation is how many ballot questions? Is it gonna only be for operating, or are we tying it to the school assessment?
Anybody else have any other budget questions for Heather this evening?
Good.
This and going through it all with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other budget related items for the select board?
Nope.
You good, Paul?
No flex.
Okay. There's nothing else for select board. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Still move.
Motion to adjourn. Oh, second.
Anything else? Any discussion? All right, roll call. Alex,
Vote aye.
Leah? Leah?
I think I heard her say something, but I think it cut off. It sounded like what?
Paul?
That's an eye.
Ledger, aye. All right, you got a thumbs up from Leah. Thank you, Leah.
There you go.
All right, select board adjourned at 7:33.
Thank you.
Hit the second, and we'll talk to the finance committee, we had a couple of things to go over.
That's right, you have your reserve fund transfer. You have the reserve fund transfer. Okay.
For the last. So, I know she's away, so.
We go over the revenues. In a little bit more detail. Because I'm seeing a lot of blank. And I want to understand. If they're just somewhere else. Or not.
No. So what, I believe that's in the local receipts. Yeah. So that's just we took a look at the local receipts from FY 25 and dropped the actuals.
All right, so
So we haven't gone through department by department for the sake of this document.
so you just typed in 3750,
I don't think she did. I think-
3.7 million.
Yeah,
That's all
no.
it's there is for local receipts is 3.7 million. We don't know what makes up that 3.7 million dollars.
Your local receipts. Whether it be building permit fees, motor vehicle excise.
Right, but we don't know, does that include a pilot payment?
Yeah, it would include your pilot payment. That you would typically get from the state. That's a fairly, that'd be on the cherry sheet, so that'd be under your.
And I understand that, and I could tie it all back. The thing that concerns me is I have tied this back in the past to the cherry sheet.
Mhm.
And I'm still confused as to, if I saw all these empty, it looks like we're not factoring those in.
We're definitely factoring those in.
Okay, if we're gonna give this out to residents. I think it's better to not just plug a number in, legitimate or not, but try to figure out where these go. To get to the 3.7.
So on that,
So I think we had, I'm sorry.
that's okay, the number from. The budget for FY 26 to what we're looking at for FY 27. Is negative 1.16 million.
Yes.
We expect. Almost $1.2 million less.
Well, keep in mind, you're losing your entire dispatch revenue. That's $1 million there.
Mhm.
And we never budget up to what we would actually. So in FY 26, you still had your dispatch. And we typically would back off. I don't know specifically what the Rutland's history is. I would, in previous positions, would budget at least 20% lower than my actuals for motor vehicle, at least 20% lower for my meals tax. And that's, I think,
Do we,
standard practice.
do we have these incomes yet? Not in the,
So-
and I asked for
so-
the meals because
I-
we're minus an entire restaurant this
Yeah.
year. So I guess I would look to see where our 26 actuals
Mhm.
are and
Yeah.
see.
So I sent the recap to you. I think it was one of my first things to send you the FY 25 recap. So you have that,
Okay, so
which
I
would
guess I'm
have
looking
that,
at
which would have that information on
where
it.
we are to
For
date.
the first 3
For
months.
no,
Where are we to date
right,
this year?
okay. You want, oh,
26
okay,
back,
okay,
I just-
you want your actuals for 26.
I think, because one of my, like I said, one of my big things when I look at this is meals tax, and it's like, oh, I'm down a whole restaurant.
But yeah,
So.
yeah, so
That's.
yeah, which is why,
We-
which is again, why we budget so conservatively in local receipts. I mean, look at your FY 25 actuals, they were $33 million. We're budgeting 28. So, or we're projecting 28. If you look at your FY 25,
So. Because I was trying to find something, I missed what you thoroughly said. For FY 26 budget, how do you use those numbers to then put FY 27 estimates? You said something about 20%. Do you take 20% off of that budget?
so not from 26, because 26 is still projected.
Right.
Right? So we would typically look at what our actuals were. Again, you had a exceptionally strong year in FY 25. You brought in $33 million in receipts. Again, factoring in the fact that you still had dispatch. You had a strong motor vehicle, excise collections. We don't know what the impact of the unrest in the country will do to motor vehicle sales. We can't count on that being a strong year for either 26 or 27. To your meals tax statement, people are not going out to dinner like they used to. This is not, people are cooking at home. They're making less splurges. So I think that the more conservative that we can be in our revenue projections, the safer we're going to be.
But we can't put them on line by line, even conservatively, so we can see them line by line. Instead of just, I'm looking at it from the average person coming in and looking at this. She didn't budget this, she didn't budget this, how did they do this, how did they do this? And we
So
don't have it, it's a lump sum.
I'll look at the document that you typically give out to residents for your revenues, and I'll see what I can mirror.
Well, what about you? I mean, even for us,
Yeah.
I mean,
So
I
we're
mean,
not anticipating
yeah.
that under the charges for services, we're
If you-
anticipating that to be
So
set.
the only budget document that I'm aware that you've worked from is what you have in front of you. If you have a budget document where you've had more detail for revenues, please send it to me and then I can mirror that.
So the $3.7 million in revenues, local receipts, is based upon 25 actuals. Correct?
You're looking at your 25 actuals, yes. I don't know that it.
I'm just trying to
Yeah,
back into the
it's-
number.
So
That's
does
what I'm-
anybody, does anybody look at the projections market? Do you, I mean, it really is looking into a crystal ball and saying, what is next year's fiscal outlook going to look like? Right, for local receipts. Are we gonna see the strong housing market that we saw in FY 25? Are we gonna see a strong vehicle sales where we have a lot of new cars and those higher excise bills coming in? Are we gonna see tax title properties? Is everybody gonna be able to pay their taxes? Right? Is everybody gonna be current with their property tax payments? These are all things that we just have to project and use our best guess. But again,
So
yeah.
the $3.7 million comes from fiscal year 2025 actuals plus
Yeah.
or
Again,
minus what?
what I think would be helpful is if you were to show me what you have received in the past so that I can then.
They're all here. So, I mean, they were hidden. But if you unhide the columns, all
Yeah.
of these have numbers that add up into your blue lines, and there's nothing in here. There's just a blue line.
Right.
So that's, I think, why.
Okay.
So that's-
Because
it's been-
those would be actuals, right?
Mhm.
So that's why they're there.
So I guess but on the 5-year plan, you take an actual and you multiply it by 1.025 for one thing and point, oh two or another thing. And so you're not, I guess the question is, if they're stagnant, then put them in there stagnant. If you're subtracting, then let's do math to subtract. If we're adding a percentage, let's do that and just get numbers in there. Otherwise, it's, look, I wrote, is this a made up number? Because you can't tie it to anything. There's nothing that I can add to say, this is where it goes.
Or even if you told us it was fiscal year 2025's times, 0.02%, that'd be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, roll that back. FY 25 again, you certified $33 million in revenues. We would never project a $33 million
I'm
revenue.
getting it. So that stuff you can say, this is out, this is out, this is out, this is out, and I get that.
Yeah,
I understand that completely, but at least we have a starting base and then we just say, okay, it's this. I'm just trying to back into the 3750.
For our next meeting, I'm not sure when that is, we haven't decided. Is that something that you could try to provide some more clarity on?
Does this come with formulas in your spreadsheet somehow? Did you do like just a formula for this stuff to come up with it?
are you talking about the revenue sheet?
Yes.
I don't think the projections are based on formula, no. But again, it's a projections mark, right? It's not a formula.
No, I'm
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
to
Yeah.
Aaron's point, right, if you projected it basically, not looking at the individual line items, then what's the point? Difference in. Because you could totally back into it and I could write in a formula.
So essentially,
So
if I
We're not
understand
gonna
what you're
change
saying,
we're not gonna change the math, is what I'm saying.
so essentially, we started with the 33 million from 2025 and just said, okay, we know we're not gonna get the 33 million or whatever the
Yeah.
number is, we're gonna get
so what we,
less than that, and it's just a total amount for the entire revenue.
no,
Local
when
receipts.
when I've spoken with the collector, we've talked about individual concerns around different local receipts, right? Building permits. What's our housing market? What did we take in 25? What did we project in 26? What can we expect for 27?
So then you
So-
might have notes from those meetings, and maybe that's what you take those numbers and plug those into each individual line.
Yes, I'm hearing what you're saying. I will look at, I will talk to the team and see what we can come up with that satisfies your curiosity about those lines.
Fair statement, guys.
Yeah. I don't know that we're gonna get into as much of a granular as what you're asking, but we can.
I guess I'll just ask it again. Sorry if I'm being dense now, but somebody came up with
Mhm.
this number and without numbers to say, even if it is line by line, it's not a percentage, but like Lynn said, it's notes, the decision was arrived somehow,
Mhm.
or it's random. And
No,
that's
it
what's
is-
doing in my head, so.
So fill in the blanks is what you're saying.
That's.
It would be, I guess, the best way to say it. Can you help us by filling in the blanks?
But it's like, I don't know. I feel like what Heather's telling us is that she's using her judgment. And it's
Oh,
hard to
absolutely, but
do the judgment line by line, right? If I asked a plumber what it would take to install a
same.
furnace, right? You could probably give me a number that's plus or minus, right?
If you ask me line by line, I'm gonna walk away.
That's,
Yeah, but
there you go, so that's my
it's
point.
not just us. I hope it's not just us that's asking. I would hope that the taxpayers would look at this and ask for this.
That's why I said fill in the blanks
I
if
mean,
possible, right?
Because we're looking for an override and we want to make sure that we've
Yeah, so I
budgeted the
guess
revenue properly.
what we wanna document is your judgment, right? That's.
That's all we're trying to do. Yep, we're trying to justify
We
your
understand it's judgment.
Yeah. We get it. That's just how it works.
I don't think I'm
Justification.
not questioning the judgment, I'm questioning how the judgment was arrived at.
We're just trying to support your
This
judgment.
is a miracle number, so something had to have been
I
done.
guess if we gotta support her judgment at a town meeting, so we gotta do that. We gotta have some. I guess that's a better way of saying it. We're gonna have to stand up and support this at a town meeting, so we're looking to not questioning your judgment. We're just trying to figure out the rationale for the numbers that you arrived at.
Fair enough.
Cause if it comes up, we'll be able to. Karen can answer. Any other questions? Moving right along.
No, I'll just make one comment, because then that leaves me. We know that $1 million is not going to be recorded here because of dispatch. But it's not recorded here, so you verbally have to tell somebody somewhere. Anyway, so where does it go? Is $1 million just taken off? I don't know. I don't want to beat the horse, sorry.
A fair question.
The money that came out for dispatch, even though it's not gonna be in those numbers. It went out the door because it's going to the district. But that's all it did the last several years. We collected it and then we paid our bills that was in that budget. So now this year, we don't have that big of a budget. We only have our portion of the budget, which we still have to pay. So those are items, so you can justify that. You say, look, we don't have it, but we don't also have, the expenses that go with it, we don't have either. So.
Which people will be a little confused because it's still dispatch center right over there, too, so we gotta.
No, I know, but
We
it
gotta
went
clear
through a
that.
district model and it's separate from what we were doing, so.
But I understand Carol's and.
Right,
So we
absolutely.
just gotta,
I do too.
we're gonna have to speak to it at a town meeting, so we're just gonna need
And
some help.
again, I'm saying the same thing to Carol. I'm not questioning the job, I'm not questioning that. But we started on the budgets back in January. And as different departments went through their particular budgets, they said, but we also have income from ABC, XYZ, whatever it was. And I asked the question back then, I said, okay, we have that list, but there's nothing on it. Can we fill in all those numbers that are on it are on a sheet somewhere, because you had to take the number for the revenue to add it up. It should be on there so we can see it.
And if anybody asks a question, we can address it.
And we can address it, is correct.
Does anyone have anything else related to budgets? Do we want to have? Well, let's bring up the next one. The request to the reserve transfer again. With the 75.12. For that. Unusual circumstance due to retirement payout of a prior town accountant. I saw a bunch of stuff come through. That justified where we're at from Nick and a few other people. Does anyone have any other questions that we can address, or would someone make a motion to?
Well, the only question I got, if I can find that sheet that I looked at earlier is. I can't find it now, but the wording that I read on there said. The numbers were. The vacation was front loaded in July 1st, and I always, again, unless the selectmen have a different policy. You always earned your vacation as you went through the year, number one. And I can find it on the sheet it's one of those sheets we got tonight. But it says in there, one of the statements in there says, past practice. Well, is past practice? Guideline that the selectmen have, or a policy that they voted on to do, or is that just something we're doing?
I think that we need to put a future item on the agenda to discuss with Heather and potentially in a joint meeting with the select board, how we handle those items.
That's what I'm saying.
It's factual, hers.
I don't think that changes anything about this liability. We need to talk
Oh,
about,
this one, correct.
yeah, we need to put that on an agenda at some point after the budget stuff goes.
Well, the selectmen, for instance, we heard tonight that they're giving a $2,500 bonus for plowing snow.
The reason I
I
brought
don't
that up
necessarily agree with that, but
because
they
that's what I'm
decided,
voting,
right?
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I know there was like a bunch of stuff that comes out of that, and we just gotta make sure we don't drop that going
Correct.
forward, right? We
Yes.
just have to log that as a future item, so we meet on it.
Yes,
But I think this to me is like a done deal, we have to go forward.
But I will say that if we have a lot of liability that's not on the books. And this is a liability that's not on the book. If it was on the books and there was a fund for these things as a liability, we wouldn't be coming to do these things and putting ourselves in.
And that's the kind of thing that I wanna have the constructive conversation with Heather and the select board on.
Especially since that currently the vacation's front loaded, that's a huge liability. As of July 1st, to
Amazing.
me, all of that vacation needs to be in an accrued account for the entire year. We can't support that as a town.
And I say that because it shouldn't be an emergency. It shouldn't be an unexpected.
Yeah, but well, all right, so if it wasn't, hear me out, wouldn't our budgets would increase to do all this?
Substantially.
So
Well,
we gamble and do what we're doing for the odd chance that this goes this way, because we'd have to increase substantially. I don't know what the number is, but it'd be a lot
It
more
is,
money.
but it's also money that could be invested.
But here's the other way you get around that. You can front load it, but you have a policy that says you earn it per paycheck. And that's how you earn it. So therefore, when you leave, I don't know, July 31st, you're to get paid your 4 or 6 or 8 weeks vacation. You're getting paid whatever you earn.
Right.
Which is
So that's-
significantly less. You can
That's,
also,
and that's a suggestion for that's a selectman, a suggestion that we should make to the select.
right.
Because that's a policy
That,
change.
it's,
in
and
the
it's
personnel.
and where it ties to us is the financial liability that we're looking at that affects the town, right? And you guys gotta change what you're doing because it costs us a lot of money in that shorts.
You
Because
mean-
I don't think we have to, I like Karen's idea, because if we fund it, it's gonna be real expensive, but they've got to set a policy that changes what they're doing. Cause we got however many employees that are all sitting in this same catbird seat.
and what are they allowed to carry over year to year? How many hours? Half of it? Wow.
So if you got 4 weeks, you can carry over 2 and then get your 4.
So you would
Good.
carry that over, if you had an account for it, right, you would also carry that out.
Exactly,
Right?
correct.
You wouldn't have to re-budget for it more
Right.
and more, right? But
exactly, right.
But
but
it's
if you
still,
don't, then the liability that you have out there.
you know, the other thing too, it's a wicked, if they don't straighten it out, it's a wicked paperwork nightmare. They could have a 2-word policy statement and get it over with instead of carrying it, moving it, doing all that. I mean, this is forever gonna be a huge PIA if they continue this practice. All right,
So I have a question. When you I'm looking at the offline revenue. Did you increase your revenues mid-year to meet your appropriations for the fall town meeting? Did you
Yeah.
go in and artificially increase them?
They were supposedly not artificially increased, we just increased the amount to more of a 90% of the total versus the more conservative 30% of the total.
Yes, it was, and I
Crossing
guess,
fingers hoping that the
Yes,
the
that was
revenue would come
done
in
In
as-
November with the blessing of the interim town administrator and the director of finance.
Aha,
that's, yes. That,
that's where the lineup is not happening. Okay.
Correct.
Okay,
we had questions then, we have questions.
I supported it then, because, and I'll have questions about free cash again, because, you know, you just, so that's a separate discussion though.
No, but that, and it's valid, but it's,
Yeah, so
I need a motion.
motion to approve the fund,
Reserve,
reserve fund request.
request for the transfer from the reserve fund in the amount of $7,555.12. Do we have a second?
I second.
All right. Do we have any discussion? And I'm just gonna preface this before we take this vote. I know there's people in this room that don't agree with this, but this is not anything that we can stop. This is a policy that the selectmen have to adopt and do something different. And unfortunately, we have to live by it and do it. Do I think that it could be done way better? Everybody in this room thinks that, but at this point, I don't know how we change what has already happened. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
Not quite unanimous, I didn't vote.
All right, so we have.
I did not
1, 2, wait a
abstain, I
minute.
did not vote.
Okay, wait a minute.
She's
What- How are we
present.
gonna,
Is it how you do it? Present?
wait a minute, all right, so wait a minute.
There's 6 of us here.
No, I know the count. I'm saying, how am I gonna justify what you just did in a thing on this piece of
You
paper?
don't say unanimous, you say the vote was this, out of how many was here.
That-
Five,
And so, and I'm
five
gonna,
days.
for the minutes, what are we gonna say your vote was? How do we classify your
I
vote?
didn't vote.
Roll call vote then.
All right. To avoid confusion, I'm gonna do a roll call vote.
Doesn't need to be.
Well, I'm,
You can
I-
put it in, Karen refused to vote.
I can do that.
Put it right there.
I
That's
can take
exactly,
5 yeas, Aaron refused to vote.
exactly. I'm perfectly fine with that. I stand up on that.
Fine,
The amount?
75, 5.
7555.12.
Thank you.
I didn't know that was an option, but that's cool. And what would be the difference, for Darren's personal edification, what's the difference between abstaining and
Other
refusing? to vote?
conditions as dissolve the meeting and adjourn the meeting.
okay,
It all depends upon who you talk to.
all right,
And then there.
anyway.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, no, wait a second, we
Something
have,
else?
we have to choose another meeting date.
But before we get off the last thing, some point in time, not too many meetings ago, we said we were gonna put the vote down on what each motion was. That's what you requested.
I think I was talking more about, it would be interesting for the warrant. If we're not.
If we're
unanimous.
gonna do a vote count, we either do it on all our meetings or we don't do it at all.
Well, it's recorded, right? She's got it. I think it's good.
She's good.
She's got it exactly how it went down, but I think
5
if we're gonna
days,
do this, I don't-
refused, And I've got the list of. who-
5-0.
Clearly states I refuse to vote. I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, that's fine. Because there was 6 there. People have to do math and come up with what you're interested in, so that's okay.
no, I don't. I mean, it won't
I
happen.
got it, don't worry about it.
Ask a business question.
Absolutely.
What, so
Is
typically.
it budget related?
Yes.
No, we're off budget. We already got off the
Transfers,
budget.
it's but the transfers. Typically, we the reserve fund transfer is budgeted $25,000-$30,000, depending on the year. We've already spent 46,500 this year. What happens when we run out of reserve fund transfers?
That's it.
Money.
Has to go to town meeting, doesn't it?
That's what
They gotta find a way to finagle it.
Special
Go to
town meeting.
I would think.
Special town meeting, we need money.
Because
Special town meeting,
it
John?
just
Mhm.
seems
Special
like
town
people
meeting.
think we have money
When's our next
in
meeting?
this account and
That's what I'd like to discuss. I personally think we should go next Thursday. Because the selectmen are gonna do something, and I would like to request, somehow we gotta send a letter that I would like to see. Warrant. Did it come out?
Heather, will you be able to send us the draft warrant that was sent to the select board for last Monday's meeting?
So the issue is it doesn't have any numbers in it. And I know that that was something that Jen said that she wanted
right.
in the, but, and I've been going back and forth with town council about how to, in light of the fact that we have an override, right? And that we're gonna want to reserve the ability to modify those numbers. So we're working on language with council for to be able to include the numbers in the article with a language that allows us to modify that number, even after it's posted. So that's something that I've been working on, plus or minus, right?
Yeah,
Because-
it's the same thing the 5 of them got, we'd like, just so that we
Yeah,
can see what's
yeah,
out there.
it just
That's all.
doesn't, yeah, it just doesn't have, it's,
It doesn't.
it's
need-
all the.
We
Numberless.
just want the
It's fine.
information.
Oh,
That's
okay,
fine,
all
yeah.
right. I guess to me, it's not a super,
What's the architecture of the budget vote? I think it's very important.
I think we want to see what's out there.
Yeah.
What do we have?
there is,
Three articles on it.
yeah, it,
I'll make a
Understood.
formal, I'll make.
Yeah.
Can I have a motion from the floor?
Make the motion that we request from the town administrator,
That
the
Darren
draft,
requests.
the draft warrant articles as proposed to, or as given to the select board last Monday.
All those in,
Second.
second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes, good, I'll take care of that.
About-
Oh, no,
It's
no,
about the charter, but I just saw minutes today.
No, but we
The
can't. I'm
last-
sorry, we can't.
I know, but,
So we can't. So just leave it until next Thursday.
I think it's too late. Because.
no, they're gonna make one statement.
When did the minutes come out?
I was asked. Chris,
And fun, what do you think,
what's that?
whether it's gonna go to the meeting or not?
I was asked. Heather, have you been asked by? Careful here. Have you been asked by the charter committee to come up with meeting minute notes? Dates, they're going on April 1st. And it directly affects us.
they're going where on April 1st?
They're gonna vote, they're having the meeting April 1st to button it all up.
So.
Charter, so
So
remember there was
they-
some,
They have a meeting in front of they are meeting with the select board on Monday. They're on the agenda on Monday to discuss the charter.
remember we had the questions about dates and time.
Yep.
Going into that,
Yeah.
did we do anything with that? You were gonna take care of it.
Yes, so. I think that there's a lot of discussion that will take place on Monday with the select board about the nuances of the charter that are specific to dates and times and amounts that may or may not be consistent with the overall goal of the charter.
I plan on going in.
Yeah,
We'll be-
so there's a
We'll
lot
need
of,
to talk
there's a,
about
no, I'm just saying very, cause I've had a couple comments, there's a lot of detail in there that may not be, that may be better off in a policy or a bylaw rather than the charter. So I think that's a discussion that the select board are gonna have on Monday and
Okay.
talk through some of that stuff.
And I'm- I'm-
And then I think, and then I know that the charter committee is meeting on the first, and they'll probably take the recommendations or they'll, not the recommendations, that's too strong of a term. They'll reconsider the conversation that they had with the select board on the first.
I'm gonna, but at this point, I'm gonna stop all conversation on the charter because they're skating right down the line that I
Yeah.
don't wanna deal with. And I'll go Monday night and we'll talk about the dates. And thank you, Carol.
Can we keep the charter item on the meeting agenda so that we don't have to worry about that?
Yep, keep it on the agenda every time we may post one.
Thank you.
Okay,
Charter and budget discussion, charter and budget discussion.
Until it's ratified.
yes.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, our meeting will be after this meeting on Monday, but let's talk about it. But they're gonna have a meeting on April 1st, talk about it, so. I'll get with her about that, and I'd like to go next, if everybody's look at their schedules for next Thursday, please.
Just a week from today, right?
Yes, which would be April 2nd. Is that,
Yeah, I think we're gonna stick with Thursdays right up through May probably.
yeah, I mean, we're closer than, like Karen says, right around the corner.
Right,
Right around the corner, we're close. All right,
so you're gonna, you don't need a motion for that?
I'll post it,
Yeah, okay.
everybody will get it.
Can we ask for the Calkins room, please?
Yes. Does anyone have anything else?
No, but going back to that, I thought, we had an email from somebody that said they were gonna keep that room up till the town meeting open on Thursdays for us, but I read something somewhere about that. But anyways, we can ask that question also too, please.
Anything else?
Nope.
Anybody want to entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
I was one that refused to vote.
I don't understand what that is.
I don't wanna go home.
I think what they say, like in legislature or something, is they say they're present.
I remember,
So next time you have to vote present, not refuse to vote. So that.
I don't really care.
Present would be
It
less,
depends.
present would be less negative.
There'll be somebody else that will come in and then will say it'll be something else, so I don't worry about it
Present
anymore.
would be
I
less.
mean, I'm
negative.
sorry, it's not adjourn the meeting, it's dissolve the meeting.
President would be less. I vote president would be less
I mean,
negative.
so
Trying to be
ridiculous.
glass half full, as Randy says.
That's great. Then you must be looking for somebody else to be sitting in this chair, cause I'm gonna put it the way it is.
I don't know if you put it any other way, I would
Exactly.
know you were here. All right, then you. And then I can call you tomorrow, or
was the
I
scribe.
can send a,
Grab these two. Back. And get that from the
yeah, when you
purchase.
doing what you guys are doing, that's-
Equipment tracking.
a live
That's
thing,
done.
you guys are on, right?
Health insurance, there's
With finding the revenues
That way
and
it's
stuff.
in the minutes.
You guys went, I don't know, it's not on a piece of paper,
There's a revenues tab.
way over on the right. Okay,
I think it goes 5-year projection.
yes, and
And
then,
then this
okay,
revenue.
thank you, I'm trying to find out where you guys. Maybe I should have asked a little sooner, but I'm gonna ask them to defer.
Yeah, there's some like inconsistency in how those numbers, so there's the 18.5 increases, because the rates increased 18.5% because of personnel. There was a clarification because the budget should have been not being.
I think I've got that in my notes as well.
Yeah.
You have the warrant.
Woohoo!
Well, thank you very much.
I didn't realize that it was not in part of the,
Can I not?
the online packet, but.
Remember when I write proposals for work and people say, how do you know it's gonna cost $15